Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And tonight we bring you our regular Tuesday night show. Of course, we are joined by co-host Jack Kinnicky, Ben from We Are Tottenham TV, who was a regular on a Tuesday. And we were supposed to be joined by Sean, but I'll be honest, there was a bit of a miscommunication earlier on. I wasn't sure if the stream was going ahead, and I told Sean it wasn't. And I think he's in La La Land getting some sleep. But I have rang him, but Sean could end up joining us, so we do not know yet. But Jack, how are you keeping, my man?
Who knows, Dave? We'll get a surprise, sub, at some stage, this game at any moment, maybe like a bit of a Richarlison to come in. Even though Sean doesn't like Richarlison, we're going to call him, a bit of a Richarlison sub. Doing well, Dave. We have, some spicy questions, not too many, but, nice, short, efficient show, which I assume is going to have, some good debate questions for sure.
100% should be good. Benji, how are you keeping, my man? Fresh off out of the game there Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable to be back. Great to see such a big performance as well from the lads. And I mean, I can't be happier with the way things are going. A few more in before the end of the window will be nice, but I literally could not be happier with the way things are going. And let's smash the Chelsea this weekend as well.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. It's set up for us to beat them there for the first time since, I think, 2017 or something like that. I think, it's set up for it. But look, we have a lot to get through. Do Spurs have the best front three in the world? Would you start Perisic over Session against Chelsea? Can Emerson replicate the performance he had against Southampton on a consistent basis this season? And a few more bits, maybe a bit on Romero's way of telling you he likes you, which is absolutely wonderful. I love to see it. But look, first of all, we will see who is here to join us. We'll have a quick go through the chat. First of all, we have THFC Till I Die with the big one. Wow. Really appreciate that.
Dermot.
Really appreciate that, Dermatron. Absolute legend. Jack, do you know what the sticker is, my man?
Normally, Dave, Dermot's been sending in, the super stickers that, have been, reiterating the fact that he knows that a trophy's coming this season. This one is, him being basically tossed into the sky, with fireworks, in the round. So maybe he's gone past the trophies, Dave. Now he's being tossed from the team bus, in the parade through London, celebrating probably the trophies that we brought in.
I think that's the super sticker of delusional, Jack. That's what we'll make that. Big up, Dermot. Really appreciate the support, my man. Top man. A really big one. I don't even know what to say.
Post-quadruple. I think Dermot at this stage, he thinks we're winning the quadruple, no longer the double. So maybe that's post-quadruple. Fireworks happening all around. Exactly. Big
up, Dermotron. Absolute legend. Welsh guy, good to see you in the building. Says big up, lads. And answer your question is yes, screw Haaland. Teams are put on notice. Absolutely love that. And then Dermatron follows it up with we have the our very own Best Law and Charlton, Harry, and Jimmy Greaves' son, our Terry, Dyson, Decky, our Tony Galvin. Absolutely love that. You can't get enough of the old history. Big up, my man. Absolute legend. We've got John Carter in the building. Evening, sir. I hope you're keeping well, my man. We also have P Dubs. Boys, is content better judge of talent than Paratici? Discuss. Look, all I'll do is I'll start at my man, and we'll have a little discussion at the end on it. Good question. Craig Weaver, Coys, big up, my man. Big up, Robbie Keane. Absolute legend, my hero growing up. Never forget the celebrations. Big up. We've got Josh Schmidt in the house. Tempest, Fugit, Paddy Higgins. Big up, lad. Good to see you, young Putty Vendetta. We've got Harry Holden as well. Good to see you in, my man. Got a super chat here from Dark Zone G. Says, I can't think of a front three that is stronger than ours. City and Liverpool have a new forward line, so their front three starts from zero. Kulu was the missing piece. Well, Jack, what we'll do is we'll let you ask your question off that, and we'll throw it straight to Benji, and we'll do the question and Dark Zone G super chat in one.
Might as well get into it straight away then. Yeah, pull off the gloves.
Think alike.
Put on the gloves, yeah, get right into it. Do you think Spurs have the best front three in the world, Ben? I'll give you maybe
in the world.
I'll give you some examples here. Man City would be Haaland, De Bruyne, maybe like a Foden or a Mahrez in there. Liverpool, you have Diaz, Jota, or Nunez and Salah. Chelsea, I feel like not really worth comparing, but Mount, Sterling, and Havertz. Real Madrid, you have Vinicius Jr., Benzema, Rodrigo. Barcelona, decent one now with, all the financial fair play going on there. Dembele, Lewandowski, Rafinha. Bayern, I think it's like Sane, Mane, Gnabry. I mean, do you feel like Spurs, with the addition of Kulusevski, confidently have the best front three in the world?
I think it's definitely up there. It really is definitely up there when you're
Scored
looking
more
at
goals than
Kane.
Man City and Liverpool in the total of 2022 so far. So technically, a more lethal attack than in this year than Man City and Liverpool.
I think that Haaland changes a lot in Man City's attack, because you've got,
True.
when you're talking about the best strikers in the world, you're talking about Haaland, you're talking about Kane, you're talking about Benzema, you're talking about Lewandowski, right? When you're comparing Man City's front three, which I think is comparable to ours, I wouldn't even put De Bruyne in their front three, because he doesn't really play there. He plays in midfield.
Well, I wanted
more.
to make it sound nicer, because I
No,
think
make it sound a bit more sexy with De Bruyne.
Yeah,
in there.
exactly. I wanted to give them some credit as much as it pained me, because I think you would probably put Mahrez or something instead, right?
Yeah,
Which doesn't sound as
the
good.
way I look at Man City is I would probably put Foden on the left, Mahrez on the right, and Haaland up top. To compare that with Tottenham's front three, I think when you compare Haaland and Kane, they're both two, take your pick, you know what I mean, two of the best strikers in the world. When you're comparing Foden and Son's a much better left winger than Foden, in my opinion. And then Mahrez, I think you've got to say Mahrez just has the edge on Kulusevski. So I think it's a very comparable front three, Man City and Spurs. I think we've got a better front three than Liverpool as it stands. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And in terms of the European guys like Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think we got a better front three with them as well.
Just a quick follow-up. I was going to say, would it have been a bit laughable had I asked you this, with Lucas maybe being, the third option? Is that maybe the point of Kulusevski, is now with Kulusevski, it's not as much of a ridiculous question now.
Exactly. I think with Moura in the question, you don't put us up there in that pedestal, but now we can attack them from all sides. We're so unpredictable. Kulusevski has literally revolutionized everything in that front three. And, all these Arsenal fans try to tell me Saka's better than Kulusevski. I mean, Saka could only dream of performances that Kulusevski puts in. I mean, he's got so much more to his game than Saka. It's actually a joke.
I feel like we would be seeing Saka every single week, or we'd be hearing him every minute in our ears if he was having Kulusevski-like performances, Dave. But, is that maybe, it's not a ridiculous question now to ask, Dave, with Kulusevski being in such good form, perhaps even carrying on from the form that he had last season alongside the world-class strikers of Kane and Son. Do you feel like Spurs have the best front three in the world?
First of all, let's start putting some respect on his name. It's Kulusevski, Jack. Look at the way that guy plays football. He is unbelievable. Best young player in the Premier League by a mile. Was it 15 goal involvements in 19 games or something like that since the guy has been here? We have the top three in the most goal involvements in 2022. Stands at Son, Kane, Kulusevski. Of course, we have the best front three in 2022, my man. Kulusevski was the missing piece. You've already got the beast up front, lean, mean goal scorer machine, who I believe will have a new hairstyle this Sunday for the Chelsea game. So make sure you keep an eye on that. And then you've got the one and only, the Korean King. I mean, Jack, right across the front three, it's comparable. You look at Arsenal, they've got Jesus up front. Every time they say his name, I feel like dropping to my knees and doing a prayer. It's ridiculous. Then you've got Saka shit there as well. And then you've got that cheap cleaning product, Odegaard. Not a patch on our front three. You look at Chelsea, they're after selling that German hot dog back to Germany. So, they don't have any strikers. So there's nothing there to compare, Jack. That's like that's Poundland, what that is. Just like comparing Poundland to Harrods. You're just not allowed to do it, Jack. It's illegal. And then maybe you look at Man City's. Yes, they've got Haaland, but look, people want to throw Grealish in there. I like Grealish, but he didn't have a good season last season. And for me, I just go off the numbers we have. We've got the last two Golden Boot winners of the Premier League as well, by the way, in Kane and Son. No one comes near us, Jack. And this year is going to prove that. 2022 is going to be my year.
Well, there you are, Dark Sun G. Opening statements have been made, Dark Sun G. Opening statements have been made, brother. Hopefully you approve, and I know you want to get your say in, but, we'll see what, what else he has to say here. Blues and Gooners and United front three are literally missing in action. Yeah, it felt like, not even worth putting them in. Even putting them in the Blues, Dark Sun G, I'm pretty sure there's a curse of the number 9 even over at the Blues. So it's even, just ridiculous to include them. But again, maybe just me being a bit too nice, Dark Sun G. Peep Dubs, with that question earlier, Dave saying, boys, is Conte a better judge of talent than Paratici? Discuss. My quick answer would be, and maybe I don't know if you guys would agree with me here, I feel like, the coach, no matter how good a director of football is, I feel like the coach, if it is a world-class manager, is probably the better judge of talent. But the manager has so many other responsibilities. Like, you can't just be flying, back and forth, watching, PSV versus, in this case versus Monaco. It's kind of maybe up to other people in the club in order to kind of fulfill that role. And I guess it's the manager's responsibility to maybe give up a bit of that, kind of pressure, onto someone like a Paratici to make the judges of talent and whatnot. Because I feel like Conte probably has the better seeing eye test than probably Paratici does. At the same time, like, Conte doesn't have the time to be looking at all the players across Europe that he thinks might be the best fit. That's my answer.
Ben, what do you think? Do you agree with Jack?
Kind of. I think that it's a difficult one because Paratici, before Conte came, he made some signing. He made some questionable signings at the time. Bryan Gil, Emerson Royal, who else was there? Papa Matasar was in there, Galini was in there, and Romero, right? That was our transfer window that summer. I think, in hindsight, probably paying 25 million plus Lamela for Bryan Gil was a bad deal, in my opinion. You can argue the other way, but I think Lamela would have done more in the squad than Bryan Gil did last season, seeing as Bryan Gil was sent out on loan.
That's a fair argument.
You've got Emerson Royal, who's taken a while to bed in, whether you like him or not. Yes, he is improving now, but he wasn't great for the majority of last season. You could say, is that a good signing or not? What would you say, yes or no?
I don't think you could say it's a bad signing yet.
Look, for me, the way I see that Emerson saying, I'll be honest, he done more for us than what Serge Aurier did. Serge Aurier was costing us every week. And at the end of the day, that's who he replaced. And for me, it brought us from Europa Conference League up to Champions League. So for me, I think it's an improvement.
And the other thing as well is that we signed him for Nuno, and I think most of us have agreed that Royal is at least a good defensive right back, which kind of made sense at the time for what Nuno needed in that B-Tech Mourinho-like system that he was, using. Emerson did make sense. And I think he's made the best effort he can, to adjust to right wing back, and he got us into top four at least. And so I would say, while you might not say it's a great signing, I don't think you could say it's a bad signing yet.
I agree. But what I'm trying to say is that since Conte has come in and they've both started working together, we basically haven't missed on a transfer. Every transfer has been like 5 levels above the transfers that we were making before Conte came in. So I think that them two together is literally a match made in heaven. And I think that I wouldn't say that, Conte is a better judge than Paratici or Paratici is a better judge than Conte, but I think these two together is literally a match made in heaven. I mean, look at the signings we've brought in with these two guys together. Kulusevski and Bentancur, which pretty much made us top 4. Perisic we've brought in. We've brought in Richarlison as a squad player. For 60 million.
The number 9 fixed.
All Bissouma, Lenglet, we haven't missed on a transfer yet since these two have been working together. And when Paratici was here on his own, there could be a couple of misses there. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Look, for me, I think, look, Conte's been around the block. He knows a player, even the style of player he was himself. He wasn't as gifted as everybody else, but he had to work harder. So for me, I think just sheer the fact that he's played the game, and he's been in management for quite some time, I would trust his eye of judgment. You don't go on and win what he's done and have to turn around at Inter or Chelsea the way he has without being able to identify quality players to come in here in positions of need. But at the same time, Paratici is the one that goes and gets the deals done. Look, people can give Steve Hitchen all the free passes they want, by saying, he works under Levy. So does Paratici, and that's what people do not give the guy enough credit for. And for me, I think Paratici, it's all well and good identifying them. We've identified players before. The problem has been getting them over the line and getting them to sign for Tottenham. And that's what Paratici has been doing. And look, for me, I agree with Ben. I think the fact that we have the two of them, it's a match made in heaven. And long may it continue because they're bringing this club in the right direction.
But what I would want to say on Paratici, by the way, getting Christian Romero to Tottenham whilst we're in the Conference League, he deserves his Don status just for that alone. You know what I mean? Just for that alone.
Might be what he almost got thrown in jail for. That's what cooking the books is getting Romero over to Tottenham during that time period. That's what cooking the books is.
Everyone asked the Don was, is the Don cooking? Well, he hasn't turned off the hob ever since he's got here. You know what I mean? He's been working out meal after meal. It's absolutely unbelievable.
The burner is all
Don
on.
Paratici, I love him. I absolutely love him. I don't usually fangirl over director of football or, you know, whatever he is there at the minute, whatever fancy title they've put on
Because we've
him.
never had one to do that
I
with.
love him. I love him. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I love him, though.
Dark Sun G also saying, I love how Arteta celebrated an own goal while Conte didn't. This shows the difference in mentality and class between the two clubs.
Have either of you lot watched the All or Nothing, the Arsenal?
I've watched the first three episodes. I've watched the first
Doesn't
three.
Arteta just come across as like some substitute PE teacher or something? I mean, he looks so out of his depth.
Half the players look bored. You see them, their hands are all there and everything. If that was content, they'd be made stand there military style. You know what I mean? They're all sitting there half asleep. Honestly,
the most inspiring speech came from the photographer when he actually, you know, delegated the speech to his photographer. That was the most inspiring speech I heard. And honestly, as well,
guy, huh?
Dark Sun G and Ben, it felt like, you know, what seems to be the reason they dropped top four is because Arteta was spending more time figuring out how to draw like a smiley face the right way instead of, you know, figuring out the tactics. Because honestly, it looked like, you know, a 3-year-old's like, you know, kind of like, you know, art in class, you know, kind of like a project. Something.
Well, when you've got Saka
like
and Ramsdale there, Jack. It may as well be
put up on the fridge, Dave. You know, something you put up on the fridge to say your son, you know, your daughter that you love them, you know, sort of kind of drawing, you know, I don't know. It's just weird.
My favorite
He's not a football coach. He's a kid's entertainer, man. That's what he is.
Exactly. Honestly, they could have put a clown nose on him and a wig, you know what I mean? And gave him some balloons. I was expecting them to whip out the balloons and start making dogs. Honestly, it was ridiculous. and then honestly, when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I see this PA system being set up. And all of a sudden I just hear, you know, you'll never walk alone. I'm sitting there, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, first of all, that's a poor PA system. They could have paid me. I would have been louder than that. You know, it's just like, it's honestly, the methods of this guy, like he's already gone above and beyond to try and get what he can out of this squad. And it's going to fall apart this year. I cannot wait, honestly. Next season, I'll book him for my niece's birthday party and he can make some dogs and ducks and everything else. He's an idiot. I hate him.
Rumor has it after playing You'll Never Walk Alone on the training pitch, apparently before the Crystal Palace game, while the players were training, they had eagles flying around their head. That's what was going on.
The squad is so young as well. The squad is so young. It feels like, you know, they have to, you know, they can't even do double training sessions because that means they would be staying past 5 p.m., you know, which is past their bedtime and, you know, they need to be home. So Dark Sun G, different mentalities, like you said. Ivan D said, Kulusevski is better than Saka as well as Diaz. I think he's starting to prove that he's a better signing than Diaz was because Diaz, you know, isn't already a natural right winger. He's more of a natural left winger. So we did kind of save ourselves, you know, from a bit of a kind of, I don't know, rotation kind of complication there. And Saka, I don't know. We've already established that, you know, on Weird Time TV's debate with the Arsenal fans. So Ivan D, you already know, my man. You already know. Big up. Moondog says, my Dier bet will be going back on this weekend, but he missed out on it. And that means it's not going to be happening then. You know, he's going to go back from he's going to go from rocket boots to moon boots again.
He won't score for 3 years. He won't. There's no point, Moondog. You missed it. I told you the one day you don't put it on, he'll score. Ben, all last season, every single game, Moondog, fiver for Dier. The only time he doesn't do it was the start of this season. And the guy, you know, he even crouches down. It's like he was bowing down when he headed it. You know what I mean? And Moondog missed out. Honestly, Moondog, you may pick someone else. Go for Romero or Davies. They're next on the score sheet.
I know someone that put on Sessin on any time on the weekend.
Did you have money on Cessna?
Not me. I saw someone, met someone at the game. He showed me a slip Cessna on any time.
Whoa. Nice return.
That's a good return.
Yeah, he won about 250 quid or something.
That'd do me.
Yeah.
Every once in a blue moon, every once in a moon boots goal. That's what I would say, Moondog. Dark Sun G says, you never know what would have happened if Diaz came to us instead of Kulu, but Kulu is the way better signing and option than Diaz. Diaz isn't doing much. Dark Sun G, didn't mean to steal your thunder here. You know, you obviously made this point before I did. But Dave, you know, or Ben, you know, isn't that right? You know, the fact that Diaz was more of a left winger than he is a right winger. He loves to cut inside. Like, we would have had, you know, a bit of a squad complication because I feel like we would have had to move like Sonny over.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Kulu just makes so much more sense to us. Fits exactly where we needed him. Diaz would have come in more of like competition for Sonny, and we've got Richarlison for that now. But I think that, look, you can't argue that Diaz. I think Diaz is a top player.
Still great.
But I think Kulusevski is just so much more suited to us. And anyway, I think that Kulusevski is so much more He fits into the Premier League a lot more than Diaz, in my opinion. Even though Diaz has supreme ability, I just think Kulusevski is so much more adept to the Premier League, and I'd so much prefer to have him.
Definitely, absolutely.
For me, I'm just happy it's worked out the way it did, because if Kulu didn't hit the ground running, we'd be sitting here in uproar. Why didn't we get Diaz and everything else? So, I'm just absolutely delighted that it's worked out. And for me, I think Kulu will go on to do better than Diaz. I really do. I think you listen to what Conte is saying. Darren Anderton has come out today and spoke about him, and the amount of praise this kid is getting. And you just look at him. You just can't stop him, whether it's going inside you or outside you. He's going to turn you like a washing machine. And for me, I think he's absolutely brilliant. I'm glad we got him. And the fact that we got him at a snip of what Liverpool paid for Diaz, it's even better.
The guy's a magician. He's a pure magician. He's just so good to watch, isn't he? That second half against Southampton, he was completely unplayable. They just didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know how to handle him. And what a great tool in our armory to have, like when the likes of Kane and Son, Son, I thought Son played well, actually, against Southampton. He was just poor in front of goal. Kane as well, like I thought he had a good game, but it was more like when he came deep and spreaded the play and stuff like that. But when Decky's on that form, it doesn't even matter.
No, he was. I think someone put in the chat, he was simply world class, that day, and I kind of, can't really disagree with that, because you were looking at what Sonny and Kane were like. Kulusevski was carrying the whole team, for majority of that game.
And let's get this straight as well. Look, as good as Lamela worked, or as hard as Lamela worked, he wasn't adding from that right-hand side anytime he was really given an opportunity. Lucas Moore, the same, And for this guy, considering we've signed so many players to kind of try and gel in with them to make it a front three, and they've been either overawed or outdone in terms of quality, and they cannot sort of get it to click. The fact that this guy, at his age, moving country, the middle of a season, when the fan base is in absolute uproar over the transfer window and everything else, and to come in and hit the ground running the way he has done and score our 15 goal involvements in 19 games, that's no mean feat. That just shows the mentality of the guy plus the quality of the guy. And then when Kane, and even to take it to the next level, that when Kane and Son are not really at their best, this guy, it doesn't matter, because this guy will be. And he's able to go and win you a game single-handedly if necessary. And that's what I think you've got to give the guy credit for that. He's only a young kid. You have to remember this.
Yeah.
Name me another player that's done that. Name me another player that's come into the Premier League halfway through a season, never kicked the ball in the Premier League before, at that age, that has had an impact like Kulusevski has had.
Definitely not at that age. Definitely not at that age. I was going to say maybe like Payet is like the last player I remember just coming into the Premier League and just taking it by storm. And but even then, though, he was like, what, 27? He was like in the prime of his career. He was like in the prime of his career, I think, at the time that he moved to West Ham doing that. So, but that's the last time I remember a player just coming in and just, just tearing up the league, so and maybe Bruno, but Bruno, again, in the prime of his career when he kind of came over, to United as well. So no one at that age. Really good point there, Ben. And also with Diaz, he's just nowhere near as versatile as, Kulusevski is. As good of a player he is to watch. Like Kulusevski, we know he plays in like a front two with Alexander Isak, as a striker. He can play as a cam, as he did back in the day with Parma. He can play as a left wing, right wing. It's just, I don't know. He just also has so much more ahead of him, I would say, in terms of where he is able to fit in. He can probably fit into so many more different systems than Diaz can. Dark Sun G, Davis.
Frightening how good he can be.
Yeah, definitely more of a ceiling. As like I said, as much as we love, or not love, but as much as we, think as good as Diaz is, I would say nowhere near as high of a ceiling as Kulusevski.
Let me ask you this question quickly before you move on.
Yeah.
Does Kulusevski have a higher ceiling than Son?
Oh, you're going to upset the fan base.
You have to rewind. You have to rewind yourself back to Sonny's day.
Because Sonny wasn't this good at this age.
He wasn't. No, he was good at Leverkusen, but he wasn't.
No, he was nowhere good. Near. But was he this good?
No, he wasn't nearly this good at the time.
I think. Do you know what? I'm gonna say yes, and this is no dig at Son, but I even think he could probably be better than Kane if he really put his mind to it. Because Kane wasn't really that great at the age he is now either. So for me, I think he has a higher ceiling than the two of them, if I'm being honest. And it all comes down to, obviously, luck with injuries and stuff like that. But him staying grounded, working hard, keep on improving his game, keep living the game the right way. If he could do that, the sky's the limit for this kid. I mean, Ben, the ball's coming over his head and he's putting his feet like 6 foot up in the air and just plucking it down. It's like super glued to his faces. He doesn't. Everyone knows he wants to cut in on his left, but yet nobody can stop him or get near him. And even if they show him on the outside, he just goes on the outside, holds them off and puts in the ball in the box. But not only that, I was saying it the other day, the finish. How many times have you seen people snatch at something in the 6-yard box, and shite the shot or put hit the person in front of him, where he has the composure, just to bend it into the bottom corner as well. It's absolutely unbelievable. This kid has a higher ceiling than Son and Kane, I think.
Wow.
Didn't we even say just the other day, I think even Ben might have been on for that stream, where we said Son and Kane are such, if not the deadliest finishers in the world, that we actually forget how good Kulusevski is actually at finishing himself. Because we think of Kulusevski as the creator, but we have forgotten that he's had some pretty spectacular finishes so far for Spurs, some pretty amazing goals that, you would think would be probably the best finisher in most teams, like finishes that, you would think, would be probably the best finisher in teams like Chelsea and whatnot. I would say that's how good Kulusevski, I think, is when it comes to burying it. But Dave Darkson G saying, Paratici is a Don. He bought Basuma cheaper than Sissoko, Lo Celso, Tanguy, and Basuma. And Basuma is a way better player than all three combined. This is proof, in my opinion, that he is a Don.
That's embarrassing. That is embarrassing on Steve Hitchen. That is pure embarrassment. The fact that we got Basuma cheaper than Sissoko, and Sissoko can't shoot, cannot pass. All he's good at is ripping up play and maybe running the ball the odd time up the line. He could not do a thing. And we paid, what was it, 35 million for Sissoko, I think. The shit show, I mean, look, don't even get me started on that guy. And then Tanguy end on burgers. I mean, look, with that guy, he's a baller. He could be one of the best midfielders in world football if he had the right attitude and the right mentality. He just, unfortunately, he just doesn't want to play. He'd rather just fucking, I don't know, chill out over in Paris, fly back and forth to Paris every few weeks, with the boys and all that crap, rather than just work on his football. But the fact that we also had to pay Jose Mourinho to be his personal trainer and run around an apartment block with him is even worse. So, look, for me, what Dark Sun G has done and put here, just kind of, it's done deal for me, even though it was done a long time ago, because I'm his best, I'm Paratici's best advertiser. But yeah, look, for me,
almost rather, Dave, you would almost rather have Basuma than the 2 extra players, if you could, on the field. If you could have 13 players on the field, including Lo Celso, Tanguy, and Sissoko, you'd rather just take the 11, including Basuma. That's what I would say. That's how poor those transfers are. You would even just say no to the extra players.
Sissoko, I mean, thank God all these problems in my life are gone. Like, my parents and the missus now used to say to me, Dave, what's wrong with you? I just be like, Sissoko, and I'm better. So, I mean, you want more? Like, there's Winks. I mean, I can still go. Like, thank God them problems are out my life.
Winks is still here, Dave. Winks is still here.
He's still
and
here.
Holding on to the number 8 as well. Little rat. He won't even give over the number 8, and he's going to be gone. I bet you he tries to stay here beyond the window. Guarantee you.
Probably.
Faz Rapar saying the Gooners have the easiest first 5 matches in the top 6. I don't even know their schedule, Faz, just because I know that once they come up against a top 6 team, they're just going to make it this big fair. It's all going to be advertised all over the television, and they're just going to get smacked like Jurgen Klopp did. They're going to get smacked like the Spurs have. It's just like Chelsea did, in the first, part of the season as well. I'm pretty sure their record against the top 6 was really poor until that kind of end of the season run that they had last season. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to have a poor record against the top 6. That's what really matters to me, Fast. Appreciate it, my man. Jeff THFC saying I was a Levy and Enoch out last season, but 8 signings, ... maybe, perhaps changing his mind, or at least, maybe looking at them in a different light, Jeff is. Jeff is. Big up,
Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat, Jeff. What's the ending? You can't leave it on a cliffhanger like that. You're not the writer of Coronation Street, my man. Put the answer in the chat.
It was very cliffhanger. It was. I didn't know what to say. Franco Martinez saying Arteta worked for the guy who wrote the book on football. What Arsenal didn't get was that getting the guy who read the book is not the same thing. Ben, B-Tech Man City is what, we've often called them. C-Tech Man City is probably more accurate.
Z-Tech Man City, more like, you know what I mean? Absolutely terrible. Arteta is just a cringy manager. Arsenal are a cringy club from top to bottom. They're fans, man. You know what? Yeah, that last super chat before saying they're going to win their first 5 or 6 games. Let them win their first 5 or 6 games. Let their fans keep building them up and building them up and building them up until ultimately come crashing down. So let's go for it, man.
Look, they will come crashing down. I'm not too worried about them whatsoever, if I'm being honest. Look, when it comes to them mugs, to be honest with you, I kind of want them to have a good time up until Christmas or in and around December. Because top of my Christmas wish list this year is Arsenal Tears. So hopefully they lose every game in December and get smacked down to reality.
And Franco, I think last season, they were struggling, to even beat, the worst teams, in the Premier League. So maybe, who knows, might be the flip situation where they, beat all the easy teams. And then, like I said, once they come up against the top 6, they just get nice and humbled. And, then Arteta is just, crawling back to his whiteboard to hopefully come up with a better drawing to motivate the boys. But big up, Franco, my man. Really appreciate it.
I have an echo. I'm going to log back in.
No worries. Ben, we can, move on from, do Spurs have the best front 3 in the world? But I feel like, if you wanted to have any last, kind of, says on that, you're welcome to get them in. But of course, we have other questions in. Did you have any, kind of things that you wanted to get in before we kind of interrupted that conversation of best front 3 in the world? Because if you ask me, I feel like, you look at most other teams, around, around Europe. They maybe have, 2 good players, but it's always that third player that just seems to be, maybe a bit more kind of on the fringe. Whereas Kulusevski, I don't think is really a fringe player anymore, at Spurs.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you got to realize that we're adding Brazil's starting number 9 to that as well, as a rotation player to them as well.
True.
So it's actually for number 4. Like, name me forget the front 3. Who has a better front 4 than that?
Who has,
like literally no one, right? Who comes comparable to that?
I don't even know, like in that sort of quality as well. Because I feel like, the teams of Chelsea, Bayern, etc. I feel like they have a bunch of players on the same level, that are all kind of sort of on par with each other. But there's no like 2 world-class players that always pop out like Kane and Son. And then that sort of always sets us above everybody else. But then it's that third player. And it feels like then having Kulusevski, you're like, okay, that's intimidating. And then to have, like you said, Richarlison is sort of the other one to then replace them, or like the other one to then come in. I don't really think there is any other situation, because I do look at Real Madrid maybe as a comparable one. I think Vinicius has shown that he was world-class. Benzema showed that he was world-class. But then it's like Rodrigo and like Asensio, you know what I mean, Ben, is like, or Gareth Bale is like, previously is like the other third and fourth option. So I agree with you there. I feel like Richarlison, to a degree, makes our front 3 or our front 4 or whatever our attack is much more intimidating.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Love that.
Just quickly, Jack, I believe it's Rob again has gifted 5 channel memberships out.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
I have it up on my phone. I'm looking at it now. It says Rob Wallace has gifted 5 memberships. Let me take a look at it, Rob. Just trying to see who received it. We have Shamu, who received one, Dave, from Rob Wallace. Absolute legend.
Big up, Shamu.
We have Sandile Buteleze. Great name to say. I'm probably said that wrong, but that was fun to say it that way. Big up, Sandile. Ellie Yates, Dave, another Ellie of the Harris Army, getting that membership. Welsh Gal. I think, or not Welsh Gal, but Welsh Gal is also in there. Tommy Palmer received a membership. And then Usery has received a membership. All from Rob Wallace, the very generous Rob Wallace, Dave. And Dave, thank you for noticing that as well. I did have it open on my phone, just wasn't looking down. Appreciate it, Rob.
Big up, Rob Wallace. Very generous thing to do, my man. Absolute legend. Appreciate it, brother. And
If
hopefully
anybody
then
wants to
people
take
can use
advantage
that
of it,
to
you
on
have
the
fan
fantasy.
shows now. You get that notification. Come on to the fan shows Friday. I would say, have a bite. See if you ever wanted to come on. If you're ever thinking about getting that membership, Rob is now just giving it to you. So there you are.
Big up, Rob. Absolute legend. Sorry, what were we talking about before I came in?
I was just asking Ben. I was actually stalling a bit. I was just asking Ben if, he had any last says on, the best front three in the world. So Dave, if any closing arguments, if you had any, on best front three in the world, Kulusevski, Kane and Son, I think he just more or less added to the fact that Richarlison makes, Spurs' attack even more intimidating compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's going to be proven this season. Teams won't be able to handle it. Look, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let my front three do the talking. I believe in them that much.
Let them do the talking. Absolutely love it. All right, guys, we're going to move into some other kind of sort of, different sort of questions. Would you start Perisic or Sessegnon against Chelsea? Ben, I feel like Sessegnon, he almost had a ridiculous brace because that right-footed finish, while it was ruled offside, was absolutely sexy. But would you start Perisic, considering how good we know Perisic is?
No, I'm sticking with Sessegnon in my opinion. I think that after a performance like that, you just can't take him out. And the same goes for Emerson Royal as well. I think the same team, exactly the same team that started against Southampton, have to start against Chelsea. Every single one put in a brilliant performance. So I think you can't take out players that are playing so well. The new players that are coming in now, they need to earn the shirt. They can't just come in on reputation and just play. They need to earn it. And unfortunately for Perisic and Bissouma and Lenglet, all the players that are playing right now currently own the shirt because they're playing the best.
They set the standard, I think, as well. Sessegnon and Emerson did. They made, even players like Perisic probably kind of a bit nervous with how good I think that performance was. But Dave, do you agree with Ben? Sessegnon starts?
Look, I was very critical of Sensational, all preseason, and rightly so, in my opinion, because what I was looking at, I did think he had declined since he was 17. But, he done exactly what my criticism of the guy is get into the positions that Reguilon used to get into and then show us you can take them. And that's exactly what he done all first half against Southampton. And for me, I think it'd be very harsh to drop the kid. And I'll be honest with you, I was there at the Wolves game last season when he got taken off before half-time, sacrificed. So for me, I would actually reward him and I would start him against Chelsea. Look, it may not go away. It might come a case where he might put in maybe not his best performance. He's up against Reece James, but then we will bring Perisic off the bench. But I agree with Ben. Look, although we've made all these signings, they still have to earn their place in their spot in the team. And the fact that they've come in and it looks like everyone else's levels is raised, that's only a good thing for Tottenham. That's what competitiveness does. And it should bode well for us in nearly every single game this season. You'll see a very competitive team out there. But Sensational, he deserves to keep his spot against Chelsea.
Perhaps even becoming Sessegnon by the looks of things with how much, he's learning, from our boy Perisic there. For me, quickly, I would say he had that good of a display, like Ben said, that it just would be a crime, to leave him out. And then what it sort of then suggests is like Dave was saying is, let's say Sessegnon or Sensational or Sessegnon, maybe he underwhelms a bit, against, Chelsea, let's say, doesn't really have as, big of an impact. You bring on Perisic and see what, he does differently. And, Sessegnon deserves the start. I kind of agreed with Ben there. And then we're going to talk about our other wing back, everybody, and it has to do with Emerson. Can Emerson replicate that performance? Because I've been defending Emerson for some time, probably wrongfully so, but regardless, it
Never
felt like
wrongfully
that was kind
so.
of what,
Come on.
Save Emerson, as I think, King Hoddle is about to put in the chat. Everybody, hashtag save Emerson. With the performance Emerson had against Southampton, can he replicate that on a consistent basis for you, Ben?
Of course he can. What sort of question is that? Of course he can.
Well, so many people they don't think that he can. That's why I think what people thought is that after that Southampton game, people thought, oh, people are exaggerating. It wasn't that good of a performance. He won't be able to do it again. Kind of etc. As much as it may seem like a silly question, I think, some of the Spurs fan base, might actually disagree.
In my opinion, last season, his best displays came in games that we needed to shore up the defence. The games like Man City, the games like Liverpool. Those are the games where I thought he played the best in. And even when we played against the lower teams towards the end of the season, he was getting better, gradually getting better. This Southampton performance showed me that he's not only able to do the defensive display, but he can do the displays going forward as well, always providing an option. He's got the energy and the stamina to get up and down all the time. And he showed, pretty much 2 assists as well, one for the own goal and one for Kulusevski's goal. So I think
3, in fact, I think someone said, because Kane, nearly scored from 1-2, so he nearly had 3 assists. I mean, I wish we picked him up for fantasy.
There you go. So I think that you have to keep your faith in Emerson, and you got to show him your support as well, because he's had a lot of criticism since he's joined Spurs, and I think it's time for the fan base to come together and start supporting him again. And
he's also maybe, I think, certifiably replaced Kane, for best hair in the squad. But a quick follow up, Ben, as well, is that if he plays well against Chelsea, I don't think he's going to have 2 assists or 3 assists against Chelsea. But, let's say he plays well again, versus Chelsea. Would he still be Conte's first choice, or would he be Conte's second choice? Because Doherty has been kind of well publicized as the first choice. So let's say he plays well against Chelsea. Would Doherty still be the first choice?
Again, I think if Emerson keeps playing well, you can't take him out of the team. Similar to what I was saying with Ryan Sessegnon. I think once we start to play 2 games in a week, then everyone's going to start to get their minutes, and we're going to see who the best right back is. We're going to see who the best left back is. But until then, you've got to keep picking the players that are playing well. So yeah, I do think Emerson keeps his spot if he plays a good game against Chelsea.
First of all, Jack, he had the best hair in the team. Harry Kane's really gone and done his hair. So he'll have a new one for the weekend. So he's back having the best hair in the team. It's going to look that good. It's going to make you want to sniff it and smell it and just smell the aromas of the blueberries and the strawberries coming off it. He will have the best hair. Don't worry about that, Jacko. But look, when it comes to Emerson, I mean, look, still at times I look at him, he still doesn't have the best delivery. Yeah. But what I will say, this guy, touted to leave here all summer long, puts in a performance like that. But I wouldn't write him off against Chelsea, because Liverpool at the back end of last season, for me, is one of the best players on the pitch. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch, and he's well able to put in them big performances. But what I did like about him, Jack, is seeing a bit of samba coming out of him, the step overs, bombing down the wing, pulling the balls back to Kulusevski. Sometimes you don't need to keep looking to put it in there all the time. Sometimes look for the pullbacks. That's where Emerson can maybe help himself a little, because he's not the best at crossing. So for me, I wouldn't write this guy off. He's had a lot to deal with since he's come here. Yeah. And look, for me, he's an improvement on Serge Aurier. I think he will displace Doherty. I don't think Doherty's great whatsoever. And I think he's up to his level because Jed Spencer's come in here and suddenly he sees him as maybe a bit of a threat. But I wouldn't sleep on King Royal. He did frustrate me at times last season. But if you look at it defensively, I think he was solid a lot of times last season. Yes, he needs to work on his game going forward, but I think you'll see that this season. I think sometimes, look, I'm not really one to give too many players too much time to bet in. But there are some players that probably need a season. Anything over a year is too long for me after that. But I think Emerson can do it on a consistent basis.
I just don't think though his debut season was as shocking as people like to say that it was. It wasn't, like a Tanguy, debut season where he didn't play a minute, and couldn't even bother to get into the squad. It wasn't like that sort of like shocking. It wasn't a Vincent Janssen season. It wasn't, a Soldado sort of season. You know what I mean?
You know what it is? You know what it is, Jack, though? You know what it is? It's like there's been moments in Emerson's season that's just been like, how the hell can a professional footballer do that? You know what I mean? That's what clouds everyone's judgment, because I agree. I think that for the most part, defensively, he's been all right. He's been gradually, I thought, getting slightly better going forward towards the end of the season. And obviously, it came to a head in the Southampton game where he probably had his best attacking performance. But I think what clouds people's judgment is those stupid things that happen with Emerson sometimes.
I agree. Definitely. And we were treated to some howlers at certain stages, that's for sure. And I think
I want to see him run around with more flares. That's what I want.
There was one I remember at Palace away when we lost 3-0 right at the beginning of the season, where Nuno's first loss as a manager. And I think we're losing 1-0 at the time, or 2-0 maybe, and we're dying for a goal at the back end of the game. And Emerson gets the ball on the right-hand side, and everyone, all the fans in there went, right, come on, let's go forward. And he plays a long ball trying to find I think it was whoever our other wing back was at the time, across the pitch, across the defence, and he just makes a terrible pass and it just goes all the way out of play. And like these kind of moments just like overcloud people's judgment so much.
I agree. In fact, I think that's what maybe even haunted him, was that anytime he wanted to maybe go for something a bit more daring, he kind of felt like, maybe it was just better to go for something a bit more conservative, because then he wouldn't really receive the criticism, which is a tough place to be in, I would say, as a player. But a lot of people have been saying in the chat, he's doing a lot more Brazilian-like things, and he's looking very un-Emerson, I would say. He's becoming a whole new Emerson. And even, Dave, we were served Royale with cheese, finally, for once.
Yeah, a good Royale with steak and cheese, Jack. Can't forget the meat, my man. I'm not a veggie. Look at me. Definitely not a veggie. But look, when it comes to Emerson, look, one thing a lot of people don't talk about is the fact that he came out himself and said he went and talked to people over the summer, went and found himself maybe someone to talk to that to help improve every aspect of his life, his and hopefully his mind as well. And I think you're going to see the benefit of that this season. That's what he spent his preseason doing. Apart from dodging bullets out in Brazil, he spent the rest of his preseason getting the help that he needs mentally and physically, even down to, I was reading about it, even down to little things on helping him sleep and all that sort of stuff. And I think you're going to see the massive benefits of it this season. I think you'll see a much better Emerson Royal.
He's also the opposite of an Aurier, where he's not a distraction from the squad. In fact, he seems to be getting along with everybody, sort of in the squad. A lot of people find him to be even a bit of a cult figure, sort of, or cult hero in the squad. They make fun of him, by the looks of things. It seems like he seems to be the opposite of a bad vibe, or the opposite of a bad egg in the squad as well, which is all you can ask for from a player as well. THFC Till I Die says the Don has done more in the transfer window than Hitchin ever did. It came down to knowing your job. May the house that Conte is building stand forever. Big up, Dermot. Very poetic. And we even did that stream a long time ago. And no, Dermot and Dark Sun Chi know about it, where we in fact ranked all the transfers of Paul Mitchell, as well as, Steve Hitchin and Paratici and the entire Harris Army, I think including Brian Daigle, Kuva. I'll pretty much just said the Paratici already has them beat, in terms of transfers, which really does say something, Dermot. But big up, brother. And also really appreciate it, my man. Been really, really generous.
Paratici knows how to negotiate as well. He gets given a budget just like Steve Hitchin, but Steve Hitchin would come back asking for 20 million over the budget. Whereas Paratici would be like, well, okay, fair enough. What we'll do is we'll take him on loan this season and we won't pay for him until next season. How's that? And walks away with him. That's how you do it, And as well, when he walks in with a suit and the shades on and everything else, you're automatically he's in a position of command, ready to negotiate. Whereas when Steve Hitchin walks in with the Paradas that he bought his missus in Fashion Week and then goes to say, "Oh, can I have Skriniar as well before I go home?" Of course they're not going to respect him. They say, "Okay, Steve, come back with 70 million, we might talk." It's ridiculous.
And also, Paratici certified our Italian job shirt as well, so it's all good.
That's right. You got the approval.
He loved that, actually. The smile on his face.
I know Paratici loved it. Definitely loved it. I feel like Conte seemed a bit distracted. Clearly he was thinking about Sanchez, a left-sided center back. And was, was not able to focus. But Paratici definitely loved it. Dark Sun G saying Gooners beat Palace and will United, which is 2 out of 6 games. However, I feel like the Gooners will lose to Fulham, Bournemouth, Villa, and maybe draw with Leicester. That is interesting. I mean, Ben, I know you make those Premier League predictions, so there's no better person to ask, each weekend. Could you see the Gooners slipping up against one of those teams?
Well, he's saying they're going to slip up to all of them.
One of those, maybe just one of those. Which one do you see? Which one do you see them, maybe finding some trouble against?
If they're going to slip up to one of them, I feel like it could be Fulham. With that Mitrovic up front, he looks like a bit of a handful this season. I don't know. I got, in my predictions, I put Bournemouth to go down. I got a feeling that they're going to go straight back down. Fulham potentially could go down as well. But I think actually Fulham might put up a bit of a fight this year. They look like they got a bit about them, especially in that first game against Liverpool. Leicester look in trouble as well, to be honest. I don't think they're going to go down, but they got a poor squad there and they don't seem to be buying anyone.
And Villa has been
looking trouble, to be fair, as well. Stevie G doesn't seem to be getting to.
They've also, Villa didn't put up a fight that one time. Remember that one, where Arsenal were absolutely dreadful and they still somehow got that 1-0 win. All we were asking for was Villa just to put in a decent performance. So, yeah, I mean, yeah,
But
maybe.
back to your question, if I think one of those teams that I'm guessing him to slip up to, I'm going to go for Fulham.
I agree with that one. You know, Marco Silva, especially with the big Mitrovic, the itches and the big itches are making a return to the Premier League. But Dave, do you agree with Dark Sunji? Could they slip up to all of them? This is what I love about Dark Sunji, Dave, is that he'll say something like this, and then the Gooners will end up slipping up to probably like 3 out of 4 of these, and then he'll come back and, you know, prove us wrong. But do you agree? Could they slip up to 2, 3 of these teams?
Potential's there. Look, they got let off the hook by Palace. If Palace could finish, that would have been a different result on another day. Yeah. Look, they're going to struggle against physical teams. So that's Fulham, 3 points for me. Bournemouth, look, I think they'll probably beat Bournemouth. Villa
is a physical team.
Villa is a physical team as well. So, I mean, they could struggle there. And with Leicester, I mean, look, on every other year, I would have said Leicester beat them by a mile. But with the fact that Rodgers called, he called for a rebuild the earliest back as I think February or March at Leicester. So there's a lot of problems going on there. He's not happy with the squad. The squad, I wouldn't say, are too happy with him coming out in the press and saying what he did back then. So for me, I think they might just sneak a win at Leicester. But mark my words, Arsenal struggle against physical teams. And that's why we're going to manhandle them like ragdolls all around the Emirates and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, because they won't be able to compete with us physically.
They can't handle the physicality, Dark Sunji. You heard it here first. Mile High Hotspur. Big up, my man. Big up, Leo. And he says, big up, my homies. Big up to everyone in the chat. Nice to see you, Ben. Much love from Denver, Colorado, and Colorado Spurs. Big up, Leo.
Big up, Mile High.
Big up, my man. And big up all the Colorado Spurs. Come on.
And Dave, I think you got a slight echo in your thing.
Are you sure? Is it me? Maybe. Yeah, I'll log out, log back in. Give me a second.
Might be me. It could potentially be me. I'm not rocking
headphones. It's not you.
Oh, okay. No worries then. Well, it's the first time I'm not rocking headphones. Maybe I'm effing up Dave, you know, on his end. But Mile High Hotspur, appreciate it, my man. And also as well, I think, you know, you basically booked us, you know, for next week, you know, a 2. So Dave, you know, get ready. We're going to be on Leo's channel soon. So we're going to need to be prepared, you know, for the Mile High Hotspur. I've seen he's already had some pretty all-star guests, you know, in the past, Dave. So we're going to have to, you know, step up to the plate over there.
I'm looking forward to it, Mile High. Like I said yesterday, I want to be everywhere this year. So, you know, the more channels to ask me on, the better. So come and get me. Big up, Mile High.
Come and get it. Dark Sachi says, I think we should start Perisic, Basuma, Longley, Spence and Doherty, Richarlison and Lucas against Nottingham Forest, because that type of team is good for testing maybe the guys that haven't played very much yet. That's an interesting, you know, shout there. And Nottingham Forest, though, I guess they were kind of the least convincing of, you know, the newly promoted, you know, sort of sides. And they do rock, you know, a back 5 system. So we'd be coming up against kind of another back 5 team. Any of you guys, you know, kind of interested in this? Maybe kind of going for a much more, you know, kind of a reserve kind of lineup. I don't even know if it's a reserve lineup, but maybe we give a lot, you know, of chances to the other players in the Forest game. What do you guys think?
Not for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look, I think if we beat Chelsea or we don't lose to Chelsea and we beat Wolves, I don't think you can really make them sort of changes for the Nottingham Forest game, because that's the 4th game of the season. And for me, I think you've just got to keep playing the team that's winning. You just got to keep, and away from home. Look, for me, if they have to wait till the early rounds of the League Cup, they have to wait till the early rounds of the League Cup. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
I would play Spence, though. I would play Spence against them. I would actually risk that if Conte wants to, you know, perhaps play Spence against his former side. Might be a bit motivated. You don't make too many changes to the lineup. Maybe what you go for is Perisic, Spence, Longley. Maybe that's what you go for, Dark Sunji. Maybe Longley comes in for Ben Davies. I don't know. Yeah, Ben's shaking his head there. So maybe just Perisic and Spence. How about that? Perisic and Spence.
I mean, for me, I think that you can't underestimate anyone in this league. You really can't, especially as a club coming up from the Championship at home, because they're away to Newcastle on the weekend. And yeah, they got completely outclassed, but at home, they're going to be a different animal. And these teams that come up are genuinely much better at home than they are away. They'll have the fans behind them every single game at home this season. So I think that you got to play the players that have got the shirt at the moment. And then when we get to 2 games a week, when the cups start coming around, when the Champions League starts coming around, then you can start, kind of bedding these players in. If we carry on winning and playing really well, that is.
Yeah. Very good point there. Very good point there. Dark Sun G, there you are. Kind of keep the squad the same unless, maybe things go wrong, maybe for Spurs. But I would say maybe a Perisic could come in. I would like, for sentimental reasons, maybe bad sentimental reasons, play Spence.
Look, a couple of them could be in the team by then. We just don't know. But as long as whatever Conte is picking keeps winning, there's no need to make any sort of drastic changes. Just keep picking that same team until it loses or until you're getting, until things need to change. You can't change a winning team. It's criminal to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian C. Socrates with a big one here, and he's saying, lads, on the conversations of ceilings earlier, would you agree a player has 2 potential ceilings, their own natural ceiling of ability, and then there's their elevated ceiling of potential under the elite managership of Antonio Conte? Wow, Brian, such a deep thinker he is here.
A philosopher.
I would agree with him, but I'm not going to use the example of Antonio here. I would say you could argue players players have benefited from, guys like Pep Guardiola, maybe in their time period, maybe they wouldn't have actually ever become the player they really ever did if they didn't have, some sort of tutelage under, Pep Guardiola. I think it's the same with Klopp. Klopp has turned, some players that probably would have never been the players that they ended up being had they not played for Klopp. You actually look at Trent or Robertson. Would Robertson really have been discovered from Hull City in the way that he did, if Klopp hadn't, brought him in? With Pep Guardiola, with Joshua Kimmich be able to be, the world-class player that he is, had not Pep Guardiola played him at center back, with Kulusevski, be seeing the potential that he is so early, had not Conte, found the right position for him. And I don't know, I kind of agree with Brian C. Here, lads. I think every player does have a natural ceiling, but a manager can elevate that ceiling to an exponential level in certain cases.
100%. You look at a lot of the best players around the world. There are a lot of them play under top managers. I mean, even you look at the way Ronaldo got off to his career. He had Sir Alex Ferguson to kind of, teach him along, and that guy was an elite manager. You look at Messi under Guardiola, had him to kind of show him the ropes, and that guy's a top manager. But even if you look at the best players across world football right now, whether it's Salah, whether it's Haaland, it doesn't matter who it is. Mbappe, they're all playing underneath top managers or playing at the top level. So I do think there is a case to say that, a player does have his own potential ceiling in terms of quality and stuff like that. But a manager with the way he can get through to you, maybe with his as a person and his tactics, and sometimes the way a manager sees a game, can actually help you maybe improve your numbers. What do you think, Ben?
In my opinion, I think a player only has one ceiling. A player only has one ceiling, but they can only reach a certain part, and then it's the elite managers that can get them to the top of their ceiling. That's the way I look at it, to be honest. I've just had a notification through, by the way, and Romano just tweeted saying Napoli are one of the clubs interested in Ndombele, so they're lining up.
Fabian Ruiz replacement by the looks of things. That will probably not be very well liked by the Napoli faithful.
Oh no, that's Napoli. I was thinking of Lazio. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. But Brian C., 2 different answers there. It seems like, every player, at least I kind of think every player does have their own natural ceiling, regardless of whatever club or, manager they play for. But Ben has given a different answer, that managers actually help them reach their ceiling. And maybe if they don't come across the right managers or the right system at the right time, they'll only reach like halfway or 3/4 of the way to that natural ceiling that Ben, I think, was talking about. 2 different answers there, which is very interesting. And Dave, Brian C., always known for these deep questions. That's why he's called.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves it. He's at home right now and he's loving it. So he is. But look, I could definitely see what Ben is saying. I think there probably is an element of both. Like if you look at Ronaldo, first, I think it was Ferguson made him take sort of like some of the skills out of his game and just using his maybe raw pace and his strength to maybe up his output in terms of goals and assists and stuff like that. So an elite manager can take that player to that next level, you know, or basically make him from a world-class player to a Ballon d'Or contender.
But what I'm saying is, Dave, that Ronaldo had always had it in him. He just needed a manager to get him to that level.
Yeah, yeah.
And had he not met that manager, he would have only reached halfway or, 3/4 of the way, I think is what Ben is saying.
There are probably plenty of players out there that we don't know about that could have reached that level, but never came across a certain manager to get them to that level.
Yeah, I agree, especially in the early developmental periods for sure. Big up, Brian C. Really appreciate it, my man. Dark Sun G saying, if our wingbacks keep on playing like this, in my opinion, we don't need to buy Cam as soon as possible, because even though Son and Kane were triple teamed, our wingbacks of Kulu created, wingbacks plus Kulu created chances and goals. I actually made this point, after the end of that game, Dave, where, maybe last season you can make the case that the wingbacks weren't really, showing the best of Conte's system. It felt like we were only being treated to like half of what Conte's system really, can give you, is because the wingbacks were being so underwhelming on a lot of occasions that felt like we weren't actually watching, Conte's, formation, his system at full effect or at full capacity, you could say, where the performances from Kulusevski, Emerson, as well as Sessegnon kind of made you think that maybe this is what the formation is like, this system is like at full capacity. And when you see it at full capacity, you don't necessarily need to rely on Kane and Son nearly as much.
Yeah, look, the fact that, last season against these low block teams, people are saying to me, oh, we need that creative midfielder who can pick that pass. Yeah, okay, it would be nice. But, I mean, I was looking at the game. I was saying, just beat your man out wide and put balls into the box. Test them. They're blocking up the middle. That's where your opportunities and your spaces is out wide. And the fact that the wing-backs done that against Southampton, because they tried to match us up man for man. And, we just kept on going out wide. And they were expecting us to just use Kane and Son. But what that's now going to do in the future is, in future games, teams will realize, oh, Tottenham can't play out wide, so they have to account for that. And that means it will actually open up space for Kane and Son in these sort of games, because there's going to be a bit more space in there for them to play with. So I think the fact that the wing-backs have come to the party now is a massive, massive plus. But anyone that needed to see the effect that a good wing-back can have in Conte's system, all they had to do was watch Perisic under Antonio Conte. Look at the amount of goals, the assist that guy got, just cutting inside, bending one in, getting a header at the back post, And for me, I just think it's going to be super, super exciting. Our wing-backs have to keep wanting to be brave on that ball. They have to keep wanting to beat their man, make runs in behind their man. Last season, they were always turning back, passing it backwards. So what we were effectively doing is just passing it left to right, carrying no threat and allowing them to set their shape. But also, the fact that we were pressing at the weekend helped us, because what we were doing the season before that is we were sitting back in shape because of our fitness levels, and we were waiting to try and take the ball off the opposition and get quick counters. But when you win the ball higher up the field, you don't have as many players to play through. They already have players pushed on, so you don't have as much players to break down. And we also seen the benefits of that at the weekend. But what I really loved about is the fact that Sessegnon gave them options for us to play them diagonal balls over Walker-Peters' head. Emerson gave us the width out wide and the quality out wide that opened up the spaces for us to go and score them goals. So they're important, and they need to be on it every single game.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Big up, Dark Sun G. And what I would say is, the cams, I think we probably would need a cam, just to make sure we have every angle covered. But I agree with, Dave, and I kind of agree with what I said earlier, where, once we start seeing Conte's system at full capacity, you maybe start to realize why Conte never really used cams or creative midfielders very much in the first place, because when he sees the system at full strength, doesn't exactly use players like that. This, guys, is a really good transition into one of our last kind of questions of the evening from Rob Wallace. So I figured, Dave, we're just going to piggyback off of Rob Wallace's, generosity here and, use a question that we already had, which basically had to do with what do you think still needs to be done, in the window? Because I feel like a lot of people are in this limbo period, Ben, where they're like, I think we've had a good transfer window until we sign X. Then I'm like satisfied. Then, we're happy. I think Rob Wallace is saying this, here. He's saying, hello to the great panel. In your opinions, are we still looking for wingbacks, an attacking midfielder, or is Kulu the one we already have? Do we also still need a class center back? Where do you lie on this, Ben? Just a center back is all we need, left to complete the window. Creative midfielder too. Where do you stand on this?
Definitely a centre back. We need a centre back to provide competition for Eric Dier, because if Eric Dier gets injured, what do we do? Literally, what do we do this season if Eric Dier gets injured? We saw Kuti played in the Central last season, but he just doesn't have those leadership qualities that Dier has just yet. So I think that we need a proper leader in the back to provide competition for Eric Dier. So I think that would be my number one. I think that this whole thing that everyone keeps talking about, number 10 creative midfielder, number 10 creative midfielder, I think it's completely overstated by this fan base. I really do. When I'm talking about getting it, why do I? Because people think that we need to fill the void that Eriksen left, but we can play a completely different system now. Completely different system. And look, I kind of said that we did need a cam, but I've thought about it a lot, and we don't need a cam. We need a player we need a versatile player that can play in the middle too, and that can rival Kulusevski and provide competition for Kulusevski on that right-hand side. And that player is Zaniolo, because that's what Zaniolo does. Because Zaniolo, I don't think he comes in as a 10. He comes in as someone that can compete with Kulusevski and someone that can provide attacking options in the middle when we're short, when we're later on in games when we need to change things. If we brought a 10, like if we brought a Maddison or someone, they just wouldn't get enough game time. They just wouldn't. It wouldn't be like Richarlison where they get game time. It wouldn't be like Zaniolo who can cover for a few different positions in the side. So I'm not asked at all about bringing in a 10 or a creative midfielder. I think what we need is competition for Kulusevski, because I think Lucas Moura probably a bit past his sell-by date now. I wouldn't mind if Lucas Moura, if we look to move him on. So I would say centre back, probably a competition for Kulusevski, and then if opportunities come up at right wing back, I'd look at that. But I'm fairly happy with the way
I like that actually. I like that priority list, because I've said this before to Dave in the past, where you don't necessarily need, creative midfielder. What you probably would rather have in some cases is, if we are going to continue with the 3-4-3 in most cases, you probably want, 6 rotational, kind of forwards for that front line. Whereas like a James Maddison, like you said, doesn't exactly, fill in, perfectly, as a rotation kind of option or competition. He sort of just plays that number 10 role, that very privileged role, you might even say, in a team. Whereas, like other players find the ability to be a bit more adaptable, to be able to play different positions. And will Spurs spend all that money, on, a creative midfielder that can only play one position? I doubt it, because even just today, we, had a loan move rejected for Zaniolo, and we clearly underbid, for Zaniolo, which sort of then suggests that maybe is how much Spurs actually value that creative midfielder position. Like you were saying, is they're not going to spend too much money on it, even if they really like that player. But Dave, center back, is that all that's needed to have a perfect window for you, or maybe a bit more?
First of all, let me start this off by being positive, because I know people don't like when I get a bit negative. I'm not going to be negative. I'm just going to be truthful. But look, I think we've had a very good window. Even if the window closed tomorrow, I would still sit here and say I think we've had a very good window. I don't really have any complaints whatsoever. We've done a lot of good stuff. The fact that we brought in so many people so early, even before pre-season, has given us a good chance to hit the season and hit the ground running the way we have done in the first game. I think the fact that we had so many positions to fill, you're always going to come out of this window with a position or two that maybe wasn't filled. And I do feel maybe we are going to hold out on that centre-back this summer. It's just my feeling. But I can't believe I'm still sitting here asking or twerking for a centre-back. It should not be the case. Look, people have been saying to me, Dave, we lack creativity. We need a cam. I keep telling them, scoring goals at Tottenham Hotspur has never, ever, ever been a problem. Even under Jose Mourinho, who plays
under Nuno
football, it still wasn't a problem. Bar Nuno. Yeah, okay, Bar Nuno. But, we've got the last 2 Golden Boot winners in this team. We've got Kulusevski in there. Scoring goals, creating goals is not a problem. It never was. But keeping them out is. You can't keep relying on having to score 2-3 goals every single week. At some stage, you have to start grinding out 0-0s, 1-0 wins if you can here and there. We don't have that ability. Last season, out of 54 games played, We conceded in 35 games and only failed to score in, I think it was 16 across all competitions. And some of them games, I was being kind by adding them in. They were from the Europa Conference League sometimes, but Ndombele and Lo Celso, and other games like that where we failed to score in. So I was actually being kind. But you look at what Liverpool done when they were having problems. Got to a Champions League final. What cost them? Goalkeeper on the back line. All that season, they were outscoring teams, but could not keep the ball out the back of the net. What did they go and do? They went and signed Virgil van Dijk and Alisson, and they went on to be the elite European superpower they are right now, just purely by bringing in someone like Van Dijk, who automatically shored up that defense and makes them look rock solid. Look at the amount of money that Man City spent on Diaz that time when they needed him because they couldn't keep goals out, and they shored up that defense. It's proven, and that's what we lack at this club right now. A top quality centre back that is a leader, someone that is organising, someone that is screaming and shouting and holding people accountable. You have that player in your team, that goal at the weekend doesn't happen because Ward-Prowse would be picked up, so he'd be screaming at Højbjerg. You make sure you know he's there and get fucking tight to him. But that didn't happen, so it was allowed to misjudge the header. The centre-back is the most important issue at this club. You bring in that centre-back and a world-class one at that, you watch the difference in this team and you watch how many games we make look easy winning this season. Because at the end of the day, even look back against Roma, look back against Southampton. By the way, we still haven't kept a clean sheet pre-season and first game of the season. You know, and people were telling me it's only pre-season, that's why we're conceding goals. Well, it was happening all last season, and that's been my problem. And even if you look at the first half, again, the game against Roma, against Southampton, we dominated the first half in both games, but still went 1-0 down. That cannot keep happening. Kane and Son are going to have an off day once or twice, but that's when you need your defense to step up. Everyone always has a go at Kane and Son if we fail to score or that, but no one ever asks questions why that back line's not able to hold out against Brighton, why they're only able to go 89, 90 minutes, you know, and I've seen it time and time again. The only thing that hasn't changed at this football club since Poch's departure or even since Toby and Jan were broken up is that we have not bought proper centre-backs into this club to fill that void, but we've signed in nearly every other position. So now it's got to be centre-back. Mic drop, I'm out.
Do you agree, Ben? Can you not just outscore every single team? You know, you can't just, treat it like it's basketball.
Well, what I would say to David is that when Kane and Son have an off day, that's what you got Kulusevski for. You know what I mean? And
well, that's how good our attack is, though. You know, to prove his point, the attack is plenty good. That if Kane and Son aren't there firing, we have other options now. To be.
And if he has a bad day, we got Richarlison R9 on the bench as well. So don't you worry about that. No, but look, I agree. We need a centre back for sure. Would you guys take Joachim Andersen at Spurs?
Yep.
Because I'm looking at him. I think he's a top centre-back, man. Ball playing ability, aerial ability, amazing in the air.
Yeah.
I think he's a top defender, and I think he would be really good competition for Eric Dier. I really do.
We looked at him in the past, too.
Yeah, we looked at him when he was at Fulham after the loan season he had there.
I would take him, man. I really would. And, I think that our defensive problems are obviously there, but our defensive problems are overstated a bit as well because we kept our record number of clean sheets ever in the Premier League last season. No one ever talks about that, and but I still think.
Do you think that's partly because Conte instructed the players to sit into a deep shape at times, which he's not going to instruct them to do this season, by the way, because it looks like he's going to be asking them to press. But that defensive structure, the way Harry Kane was even back inside their own half at times, and the way Kane, Son, and Kulu sat there, the midfielders and stuff like that, that helped that back line. And the reason why we also had to do that, not only because of fitness, but because Conte knows the weakness in that back line. That's why Jose Mourinho doesn't need any excuse to play defensive football, but that's why when we went 1 or 2-0 up, he sat back because he knew that Dier and Davies and Sanchez and all, there's vulnerabilities there and they will end up costing you. So that's why we end up dropping deeper and deeper and deeper under Jose Mourinho. But
I also thought a reason for dropping deeper and deeper under Jose Mourinho was because the players just couldn't last that long. I mean, they were just so unfit.
That's true. I think that's true.
So I think that's definitely a case. And look, I think the defense, when you're looking at the defense on a normal day, Ben Davis, playing out of his skin at the moment, playing really well. Eric Dier playing really well as well. And Christian Romero, I think that we need one more in there. There's no two ways about it. But I don't think our defense is as bad as everyone says.
Yeah, that seems to be Ben's case. The defense is not as bad as people think, and the attack, is
But
not
we
as
still
bad as
need one
people
more.
think. Yeah, but Ben, has also made the point that the attack is not as bad as people think. Like, the attack is so good, do we even really need a creative midfielder? And then he said, with the center backs, please, they've definitely stepped up here. We need to show them a bit more respect. At the same time, though, still need one more, like you just said. Big up, Rob Wallace. Great question, my man. You already jumped the gun on what we were about to ask as one of the final questions. Dark Sun G says, I think that because we play Forest on Sunday and West Ham on Wednesday, then we play Fulham on Saturday. So this would be a perfect game for rotation, in my opinion. I did call this out, lads. I told you Dark Sun G would prove to you why, this was probably, a super chat that he put in, because, we are going to have a bit of a hectic sort of game week. And we are going to have to maybe rotate the squad a bit more. So Nottingham Forest away, is that the game that maybe we rotate things a bit more? Would you change your mind, guys?
I would change my mind, but I wouldn't change it in terms of, bringing in all the players. You need to bed them in slowly. You can't change so many at the same time, especially when we're such a system team. You know what I mean? And I think that when you're looking at those 3 games, you're looking at probably Fulham at home to be the one maybe to make the most changes out of the lot, just because it's a home game and we should be coming away with 3 points from that game. Forest away will be tough, but we have to have our best team out there for the West Ham game. So I would have a few changes in both those games. Yeah.
I'm not changing my mind.
Follow-up. Maybe this is his, he's saying,
change your mind, Dave. Change it for the good of the team.
No, look, they're fitness specimens. I mean, they can afford to play 90 minutes 3 days a week. No bother to them. Especially with the teams we're coming up against, the likes of Forest, Fulham, West Ham. I mean, by the way, that West Ham one's going to be tasty. I'll never forget. I can't wait for that one. But Forest, Fulham, I mean, look, what you should be able to do is put your best team out there. You've got 5 subs. Have the game over by half time. 60 minutes, makes your subs.
Definitely. Dark Sun G, though, I knew you would prove the point as to why this was a good question. I think you've just done that by showing, that hectic game week. Before we get to that one, Darren Kiriakou, celebrating 17 months, Dave, as a fan show member, saying, what do we have here? Who is that I see? Is that a goat that I see? Big up, lads. And then Fact Chelsea, big up, Danny. Appreciate it, my man.
The search party must have found Kiriakou. Big up, Danny.
Appreciate it,
big up.
Yeah, we do. 17 months. 17 months. Absolutely legendary. That's forever as well, Danny. Probably the length of the entire channel, Danny, I would say. Big up, Danny. Appreciate it.
We do have the goat. One day we might get his brother as well on with him.
You never know. Anyway, I'm not the GOAT. David's the GOAT these days.
Double GOAT.
Not yet, lad. I will be when we win the league.
Yeah.
I feel like was Dark Sun G Super Chat here, Dave, connected to the previous one, or is this something maybe?
I think this is what he wants. Is it maybe? I think.
Maybe I'm mistaken. Dark Sun G, feel free to don't need to put in another super chat. Just put it in the chat. But I think this had to do with this previous one where he was saying maybe these are the players that he might rotate,
Oh, yes.
Maybe he rotates in and out. Dier rotates out. Kulusevski rotates out Sonny. So maybe, someone like Richarlison comes in for Sonny. Maybe Kulusevski, Lucas comes in. And then for Dier, Longley comes in. Something like that, potentially.
As long as it's not Davinson Sanchez, I don't mind.
There you go. There you are. I think I understood that right, Dark Sun G. Let me know in the chat, my man, if I did not. But big up, brother. And I would agree, especially maybe in the case of Kulusevski and Sonny. I think we should arrest at least one of those. Franco Martini says, what I want to know from those pushing the need for a number 10 is, assuming you watched Saturday's game, where were the shortcomings in that team in the creative department? After watching, Roma, I would say maybe you didn't have the privilege to watch that Roma game. And as much as it must have been fun to be out in Israel, Jose did not treat you with a very, lovely game of football to watch. Not a good game, I must say. After watching the Southampton game and the Roma game, did that kind of confirm your creative midfielder, kind of opinion that you had earlier?
I don't take any notice in the performances of preseason. I really don't. I've been, time and time again. time and time again, I've seen us smash it out in pre-season and start completely terribly. I've seen us, be terrible in pre-season and start the season unbelievably. I don't take pre-season performances or results seriously. So I didn't really take anything into account from that game, to be honest. And what I'm going on is what I'm seeing in competitive football, and that's winning 4-1 against Southampton. Albeit we will have a lot bigger tests than Southampton coming up. That's for sure.
Definitely.
I'll be honest, I don't even know where it came from, because Roma was the only game we failed to score in preseason, but yet we conceded in every game preseason. So if you're even going by that logic, by preseason, I mean, it's got to be a centre back all day long. But yeah, I don't know where the call for number 10 has come from. Look, I will say is I would like another body up in the forward areas if we could afford it after we bring in my centre back. I'd definitely take another player in the forward areas for sure, just to kind of have every single option available to Antonio Conte, because I really do believe we can be in with a title challenge this season. Easy. Conte's already got the better of Klopp last season. He's in Klopp's mind. He has him tactically.
You're going down this route again, Dave.
Look, I'm going down. Do you know what, Benji? Do you know what I will say? I was thinking about this the other day. I do tend to put myself in some dark places at times with my predictions, but what I will say is 6 months down the line, they usually do end up coming true, and everyone has forgotten that I stated it. So I don't get enough praise for what I say, I don't think, to be honest.
Didn't you say we were going to win the league under Jose Mourinho?
Well, we were top until Steven Bergwijn missed a couple of sitters. If you would have scored them goals, like that was the defining moment in that season. So that's why I could not forgive Bergwijn for that. You're supposed to be 30 million we pay for you. That should be in the bottom corner 9 times out of 10. It annoyed me. But look, it's a rule we beat Man City. We get the Chelsea hoodoo off our back second game of the season. Like I said, Arsenal won't be able to compete with us on a physical level whatsoever. We're just going to run them around like ragdolls. So for me, I don't see why we can't go on and win that season. You put yourself in there up until the World Cup and wait for the World Cup to get out of the way. Anything can happen. But we also have January. If we need to do business, we can. So, I mean, I'm not going to write us out. What I will say is I do think that centre-back, you want a real, you want to give yourself a real chance of getting over the line. Bringing in world-class centre-back does that.
Definitely. Big up Franco Martini, and I love that question. Love the way he phrased it as well. With a bit of swagger as well. Definitely a bit. Says it with confidence. Franco does that one. Neil Thomas says, "Big up, lads. Great panel, great show. Big up, Neil. Hopefully you did enjoy the show. I think we're kind of reaching the ending kind of points of it. Start kind of wrapping things up, plugging things, all that sort of stuff, Neil. So we do really appreciate you, my man, and we do really appreciate the donation as well as everybody that threw in the great super chats today. Honestly, so many super chats, so much love for the channel, as well as so many great talking points as well. I must say, guys, it kind of sort of did my job for me, which doesn't make me feel good. Maybe Dave might find a replacement, but everybody, we did have the GOAT, like Danny said, on today. Ben, I feel like I've seen a lot of different content, come out. So, tell us about maybe what the Harris Army should go check out, maybe on Weird Tom TV.
Yeah, tomorrow we've got all our preview shows coming out. Predict the Prem, where we predict all the Premier League games. We've got the Fantasy League show, which Dave had a special mention in last week with his triple captain of Virgil van Dijk.
I had no clue what I was doing, lad. I had a nerve. Although it made my day seeing it give Sim a right laugh. You got a right.
You made it a great title, Dave. You gave them a great title, because even Dave, I had to click on that video because I was like, "Who did that?" And then I was just like, "Oh my lord!"
Jack was about to hand in his resignation.
Yeah, so you got those kind of contents coming out. We've actually just put on the channel. We've just got the rights to some Serie A content. So we've got Udoji compilation on the channel right now, where you can see all his goals, all his assists and stuff like that. So go check that one out. And then obviously on the weekend, it's back in action. Me and Sim will be in the stadium at Stamford Bridge, giving the Chelsea fans one hell of a ride. And David Harris will be back on the pre-match pump-up. So looking forward to that. And if anyone saw the pre-match pump-up last week, you probably saw Dave coming out half dead. So, absolutely great commitment there, Dave. So I can't thank you enough.
No, look, I really enjoy doing them. Look, for me, I'll be sitting at home anyway, singing songs, get myself pumped up. So why not get everyone else pumped up and let them join me, Why not? I don't mind making a wally myself for an hour to get everyone revved up for the game. That's what life is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so come and see the content, man.
Yeah, get over there and check it out, guys. There is the link. I feel rude saying this because everyone knows exactly who they are. But what I will say is there's always one. So get over there and check them out.
Always one.
Jacko, what can they find on the Flat Cap Euro Talk, my man?
I'll just plug this video, everybody. Check out my Premier League predictions, nice and late. But I did, post the evidence in the chat, everybody. I made my predictions nice and early. They haven't sent it in exactly, but everybody, I made my predictions early. I put it out on Twitter for evidence purposes, and then I did a bit of a stream about it. I would say after the weekend, it sort of does make some of your predictions look a bit sillier or a bit more ridiculous than you would like. Probably the privilege of being able to go early is you just get to wrap it up, wipe your hands clean, and everybody gets to forget about it. Whereas with this one, I was put in the position where I made my predictions nice and early, almost like a week early before the season started even. And then I had to explain myself after the first weekend of the Premier League. So everybody, I think you'll find that very entertaining. It's only close to about an hour as well. You could almost say kind of podcast length. I go into big detail about all of my predictions, why I came to those conclusions, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy it as well. So I would say check that out.
There you go, everybody. Click on the link, get over there, smash that subscribe button, and check it out. Guys, tomorrow we have the kick-off, the launch of the Boys in Green Talk Tottenham. So make sure you do tune in for that. It'll be a very, very good show. And then Thursday we'll be doing something again. And then Friday will be the fan show and stats with Jack and predicted lineup and stuff like that as well. So plenty coming up here as well this week, everybody. Look, I want to say a massive thank you to Ben for coming on today. Massive thank you for pulling Jack away from the PSV game as well. And massive thank you to myself for turning up. I do apologize to Sean because I did tell him the show was cancelled. He's probably asleep. He's going to wake up tomorrow and kill me. But look, I apologize, Sean. But a massive thank you to you guys out there for all of your support, liking, subscribing, super chatting, and most importantly, getting your comments in the comment section and engage with us. As always, come on, you Spurs. In content, you want to engage with myself and chat more, get your comments in, and one of us will be in there responding to you. Let's go. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. In contact we trust.